Hi, PC gamers. Tyler Wilde here again. This week, I'm looking back to Red Alert 1. It's a classic RTS. It's one of my favorites. One of my favorite games of all time, really. And it holds up really, really well. It's still really fun to play. So, yeah, there's obviously some nostalgia here. I loved the game back when it released, and I have really fond memories of playing it. But there are mechanical things that make it work really, really well. So I'm playing the game here, and obviously it's not quite the original game. It's been updated, as you can tell by the resolution, but it's basically the core experience, and I'm sort of playing terribly here because I'm just trying to illustrate a few things. And I could go on about lots of things that make Red Alert great. The campaign is great. The units are fantastic, especially the special units. I love Tanya. So much personality in just a few pixels being animated across the screen. And the mechanics there, putting a spy in someone's base, sending in Tanya with C4, building an army of attack dogs if you want, and taking down infantry that way. Infantry are really a useful way to pester people in Red Alert. Nothing is super, super powerful or is going to end the game, but you know, with a combined strategy, with a nuke plus here's a bunch of MiGs, and I've decided on my attack plan. But the first thing I want to note is the visual clarity. 3D RTSs have some advantages, but sprite-based RTSs also have a lot of advantages, and readability is one of them. When I'm rotating the camera around, and there's a lot of visual confusion and debris, and I'm trying to pick out my units, that prevents me from executing strategy. Red Alert is incredibly readable. I can easily see what terrain is passable, what's impassable. I can see defensive problems. I can see offensive opportunities. This bridge here, for example, I've decided I don't want that as an option for invading my base, so I'm destroying it. And I know how many damage states these tiles have before it's destroyed. And I'm not so far zoomed in that I can't see all of these strategic options, or I'm not dealing with depth obscuring anything. I'm reading this grid, and the units are very readable. I know who's where. I know what they can do. And they have a lot of character, too. I love the running animations on the soldiers, for example, when they get into a group like that. So they're much simpler than Red Alert 3's models and animations, but I don't know. I find some kind of connection with, a cluster of pixels running across the map for some reason more than, a 3D model. But maybe some of that's nostalgia. And there are certainly some problems. It's got this oblique projection. It's not isometric, is what I mean, which, not necessarily, but as a general rule, sort of suggests more volume. And the buildings are kind of at different angles, which bothers people like me who like a nice, clean grid, but that's not really a big deal. I love the look of it. I love the simple UI, too. We have a bar for units and a bar for buildings and a bar to show us how much power we have. And I can make really quick decisions. It doesn't really lend itself to the super rapid, high actions per minute play of competitive gamers in modern RTSs, but there's kind of a simple elegance to it all, and that's really the core of my argument here. That simplicity is really important, I think. Simple shouldn't be a bad word. Simplicity makes strategy possible. You could think of chess as relatively simple. But it's a hugely complex game to play. So I think when we add too much management to a game, that takes away time from strategy. And Red Alert really isn't much of a management game. The management you have to do is mainly resource gathering with harvesters. That's sort of your early game goal, is to secure as much ore as you can. So that creates some interesting battles. But if I want to, I can also turtle. Base defense is totally a viable strategy. And it's not in a lot of modern RTSs. They want to get you out there and make it a fast, action-oriented battle. But you can kind of play Red Alert like a tower defense game. Of course, before tower defense games were a thing. Again, there are some problems. I wish I could pull out walls and build gates and things. But you can. You can build concrete walls, a really defensible base. A bunch of Tesla coils can stop a pretty big tank rush. Of course, they could send some Hinds in and destroy my power plants, take my Tesla coils offline, send in their tanks. But that is a possible strategy is great. It's not just about resource management and building a ton of units. And I'm not saying that every modern RTS game is, but I feel like there was such a great balance. This versus that, give and take, back and forth, with multiple strategies. Do I want a sea victory, an air victory, a land victory, a war of attrition? That's strategy. At some point in the mid-game, it kind of stops being a race for resources. and starts being about, okay, well, what are you going to do with them? So it's a slower game. I rarely have my base demolished right off the bat, unless I'm playing with someone who's super, super competitive. But I like that. I like that. I'm not someone who focuses on actions per minute. I focus on overall strategy. And then there's the modability. Oh my God, it's amazing. The rules.ini file lets you change all of Red Alert's global variables. I think rules.ini is probably one of my favorite files ever, like top 5 files. I used to share it back and forth with friends, and we would each make changes, and then copy it back to each other. I don't know, add attack dogs that bark electricity. And the map maker is great too. There's just something really intrinsically fun about laying out sprite-based maps and designing these multi-level environments with rivers running through them, and designing in strategies and then trying them out. You can make a map with very low resources, or put all the resources in the center. And that feeling of going back and forth with maps and mods with my friends has kind of faded away. And again, some of that's nostalgia, but it's also not really how things are anymore. We've moved to these controlled systems for distributing mods in a lot of cases. And there's a ton of advantages to that, absolutely. But I do miss the simplicity in Red Alert that sort of made anyone who could play it able to tinker with it and really quickly try out all kinds of weird stuff. For me, when it comes to RTSs, I love Command & Conquer, Red Alert, Warcraft, Warcraft 2. Those games were really working with a pared-down version of what we've ended up with now. But I think they had it right, at least for me. So I encourage you to play Red Alert. EA made it free a few years ago, and it's not hard to find now. People are playing it online. So go out there, play some games, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would mean a lot to us if you came back and kept watching. We'll have new videos every week. Keep playing them games.
Base is under attack. Unit lost. Unit lost.